And we're back again, ladies and gentlemen. We've got an eclectic list of speakers to come up next for a panel discussion, which is on building state of the art AI Center of Excellence, or CoE, for strategic perspectives. And who do we have on the panel? Well, let me quickly introduce you to the panelists. But before that, a little about what the panel is going to be about. AI is invoking massive shifts in the business value chain of enterprises and is redefining what it takes to accomplish competitive advantage and upping the innovation quotient. AI and analytics CoE within enterprises and GCs are evolving from being cost centers to value drivers of transformation, innovation, and disruption. AI and analytics CoEs are set up not just for cost arbitrage, but to go all the way to curate best of breed AI and analytics capabilities and solutions, design topical data to insights infrastructure, tap into robust and capable talent, and nurture in house innovation and transformation. Now, AI and analytics CoEs are generating significant business impact through AI driven process innovation and revealing new sources of revenue for stakeholders. Now, this session coming up next brings together experts from multifarious background, and they will focus on strategic perspectives on the different dimensions of building and scaling AI and analytics center of excellence. Who do we have on the list of the speakers right here? Well, let me introduce you to our first speaker here, the global analytics leader PARS at Amazon. Well, she comes with progressive and solid 16 years of professional experience with core expertise in analytics of retail banking products and have worked in senior leadership positions at Citi, Fidelity, and Standard Chartered Bank. At Amazon, she leads the data, analytics, and tactical tool development requirements for the global compliance operations to keep the catalog safe and through her multiple corporate stints. Well, she has also pursued business analytics program from ISB and MS from BITS. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for the global analytics leader, PARS Amazon, Jayati Day. Welcome, Jayati. Up next, we have our next speaker, the Vice President, Physical Digital Technologies, GE Digital. Now, he is the VP Physical Digital Technologies at GE Digital, based at the John F. Welsh Technology Organization, Bangalore. He's responsible for strategy and execution of domain-based analytics and artificial intelligence solutions to differentiate GE's industrial internet solutions. Before this role, he was the technology director for software and analytics in GE Research, where he spent 23 years driving physical digital technologies. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the next speaker, the Vice President of Physical Digital Technologies, GE Digital, Vinay Jammu. And our third speaker here is the Deputy Director, Applied Materials. She is a technology driven and positive leader with 17 plus years of work experience. Now, she has led various portfolios in software product development, program management, IT infrastructure solutions, and delivery. She is also currently leading the IT authentication and security in Applied Materials India. Is also the people leader for Software Development Accelerator, which focuses on adoption of latest technologies, excellence in software development practices, and upskilling and reskilling of workforce. Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for the Deputy Director, Applied Materials, Anshuma Dogra Singh. And the next speaker here is the Vice President, Engineering, Myntra. As the head of platform engineering, he oversees the entire cloud infrastructure and data platforms portfolio for Myntra, which serves as the foundation for business insights, reporting, and machine learning driven personalization. His team is responsible for the maintenance and upkeep of the entire cloud infrastructure footprint and PaaS service purpose built for Myntra engineering to scale and leverage across all teams. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for the Vice President, Engineering, Myntra, Sudhir Tumluru. And with that, the moderator for this wonderful panel, who better than the SVP Enterprise Analytics and Data Science, Wells Fargo. Now, he heads the Enterprise Analytics and Data Science India group for Wells Fargo. In this role, he is responsible for delivering actionable insights driven by data science, supporting enterprise-wide initiatives. He leads Artificial Intelligence Center of Excellence, Business Intelligence Capability Center, and Analytic Quality Review functions, and has been in banking, insurance, and information technology sectors for over 21 years. So that qualifies him as the moderator, ladies and gentlemen. Lucky to have him here on board. The SVP, Enterprise Analytics and Data Science, Wells Fargo, Naveen Yeri. But before I hand this over to the capable hands of Naveen Yeri and all the panelists, once again, may I remind you gently, ladies and gentlemen, that time is of essence. So please kindly keep yourself abreast with the time And moderator, please kindly wrap up the session. When there is just about 5 minutes, you will hear this sound, which is... All right, over to Naveen, Yeri, and the panelists.
Thank you so much, Riyaz. Can you confirm if you can hear me okay?
Yes.
Perfect, thank you. Welcome everybody to this esteemed panel with an awesome title, Building State-of-the-Art AI Center of Intelligence with Strategic Perspectives. It's my privilege to host this esteemed group. So connecting the dots, Hari mentioned quite a number of stories and connected the insights from World War I and II and the transition into this century. Ambika also talked about the human intelligence, how it evolved gradually and then suddenly. I would like to present another thread and jump into the panel. Let's go back and look at the top 10 innovations of last 120 years or so. Scientific American reports it as wireless telegraphy, airplane, X-rays, automobiles, motion pictures, reinforced concrete, phone, electric lamp, steam turbine, and electric car. Think about what if we had AI and this sophistication all along. I guess the growth of this would have been tremendous. And when you think about it right now, AI has taken the center stage to push the limits for each one of these just top 10 and many millions of the innovations that has happened in the past. So when we think about AI adoption, it has taken the center stage. The AI adoption is absolutely critical in all walks of life. In fact, I was reading this snippet that Nobel Prizes this year, this is the first year where, except for peace and literature, all Nobel laureates have a background in data science and have used AI in some way, shape, or form. So folks, let's shift over from, we have talked about the what in this AI Storm conference. So this is a panel where we pivot towards the how to think about an AI at scale and the formality of artificial intelligence, CoE, and how we can get that multiplier effect for companies. So let me start off with Jayati. So the question for you, Jayati, is that gradually there is this AI adoption in companies where folks start from automation, business intelligence, and slowly grow into AI, while there are certain sectors and industries where they take a leapfrogging effect and jump into AI. In your mind, what's better? Over to you.
Right. Thanks, Naveen, for the question. I think there's always a healthy dilemma with respect to which is the best model while thinking about any AI CoE, right? And I don't think there is one grow into or leapfrog, but I think there are a lot of factors that I think one has to weigh in on, right? And a couple of things that I can think of, right, which is basically what's your vision of the business, right? How do you want to sort of, which spectrum of analytics do you want to sort of operate it? Is it a service offering? Is it a niche product, right? What is your business evolution stage? Is it early or is it mature? Because if it's early, then growth and speed do matter. And if it's like a little mature, then you do want to deploy large scale solution, best practices, and scalability some sort of becomes important. Data maturity, like you said, right? What is the data is the oil, and and the more important one, I think, is what is the appetite of your stakeholders for these data-driven decisions, right? And of course, time frame, right? An analytics organization that has sort of been there for 10 years has a very different analytics maturity curve, right? They've got the data right, their reporting, the governance, and a robust talent pool, a good understanding of the business, right? So it grows over time. So there are multiple factors, but still it sort of comes back essentially to the same question. The quintessential question still remains, do we centralize it or is it a decentralized model, right? Let me talk a little bit about some decentralized or siloed models, and I'll talk about maybe Amazon, right? I think a lot of it is dictated by the organization structure as well as the operating model. So when I talk about Amazon, there are so many businesses trying to solve so many problems. There's a problem of last mile, there's a problem of customer satisfaction, there's a problem of global trade, compliance operations, right? So these business or these analytics team need to be nimble, they need to be working with the business. Similarly, there are other organizations like Spotify, right? They follow an agile framework where they have squads, right? Where they are sort of dedicated to a theme of work that they are doing, right? So they have people in their squads, which are finance team, business team, technology teams. So they essentially work together. So all these are really good when you need nimble, quick decision making. Speed and agility is most important. Then there's a more common one that we see in Bangalore, and I think a lot of financial organizations, and I've been part of Citi, and some e-commerce organizations like Flipkart, etc., also sort of operate out of this model, right? Which is a centralized CoE which supports your end-to-end data analytical needs. I think one of the greater advantage is that they have a vantage point when it comes to a little bit more holistic view of what's happening across the business, right? They can identify the silos a little better and opportunities, right? They have this whole culture of best practices sharing, the talent, L&D, the governance, they all speak in the same competency language. So I think there's a lot of cohesion and people can build off what was learned in the previous cycle, right? And from these two sort of emerges an interesting trend, which is a hybrid one, right? And I would actually call this as a hub and spoke model. And the way I sort of see this is, let's say, and I think there are units within organizations that operate this way, which is a niche one, which is saying there's a modeling and advanced analytics science team, let's say, where businesses sort of, fund resources, or they have a particular use case that they want to deploy, right? A lot of specialized boutique analytics firm actually do that, right? They are focusing on AI for BI, or focusing on visualization as an offering, right? I think the advantage that these analytics product solutions have is scaling adoption for a common solution across the enterprise, right? This is much easier across the model. So depending on what your business imperative is, I'll go back to saying, what is the spectrum of analytics, what's the business evolution scale, what is the data maturity, and the time that you're looking at. I think that's the questions that you need to ask, and all of this work and each sort of move from one framework to the other, depending on how you're thinking about your use cases. I'll stop at that.
Thank you. I think the key things here is, most importantly, the starting point and the slope with which, and the speed at which you want to hit the desired goals is absolutely critical, and you hit on some of the key elements. I would like to extend on this question and connect and ask Anshuman to weigh in here. Anshuman, what are some of the strategic considerations that are required to set up AI CoEs, whether it's talent, capabilities, infrastructure, business impact, and governance? Would you have some examples around how do we co-create and be AI ready?
Sure, Naveen, thanks for this question. And in fact, you take me down the memory lane when we really started off the AI MLCoE within our organization a few years back. And these were the same questions which came in our mind, and I'll tell our story, how it evolved. In fact, it was considered a big successful model. So hopefully I can drive the elements from there and call it out. I look at it like 5 main elements which come as a part of the story. And the first being really what Jyoti mentioned, having the AI vision in place and having an AI champion to it. And when we started off, I think we were lucky enough to identify the AI champion very early. It was the CIO who really wanted to bring it into the organization as a CoE. The industry was being hit with a lot of AI all around it, but having a focused center of excellence was the thought process. And when we went about it, it was a matter of deciding what kind of CoE we want to build up, right? Whether it's a product capability based or it's a solutioning one, which would have a single platform with all integrations. And then we decided that it would be a bit of both that we want to do in that space. And finally, our vision was really to go into the co-creation space, even though we were attacking a bit of operational stuff or the enterprise level stuff, but it was really co-creation that we wanted to go into. There was a lot of, I would say, the AI acumen which had to be built along with the business leaders. You had to demystify what is the difference between deep learning, machine learning, AI. You had to even show them where we are on the maturity curve. And that is when we together built the vision for AI. The second thing came into picture was about knowing your landscape. I think we started off the IT organization trying to build this CoE, and we had the edge because we had a very deep analytics capability already there, and we were a horizontal across different groups. So in our organization at that point in time, we had different silos. Every group was trying to use AI, trying to dirty their hands, but nobody knew what the other one is doing and at what maturity level they are. But because we were a horizontal organization, we could touch base with them. And I still remember that first workshop we had where we really wanted passionately to build the CoE. We all flew in from different corners of the world, and myself in a very jet lag state, I was showcasing what's happening in India. But actually, what we were building was a use case dictionary as to what is happening in the organization. And we managed to get a lot of input. And when our CIO went to his executive staff with that list, their eyes remained opened. They thought that it would be one or two use cases that the people are working on, but there was this huge list with, that this is the region where they are working. These are the kind of things that they're working into. And that was the big win. They said, wow, you have, an enterprise outlook, the landscape. We want more of this, and we want to focus on the right things. So I think knowing the landscape helped us. And we had the capability because it was coming out from the Analytics CoE and getting the infrastructure in place. So that was the second thing which helped. But we really wanted to prioritize, because you don't want to go for moonshots in the beginning. You really want to have those small victories, even though your vision is great, but you want to focus on the high value problems. And that's what we started. And the third problem was, now that we've got everything in place, how to build and scale. So in our CoE, we built one arm which was really looking at the strategy piece of it. The other was around services, and working on these high value problems. But the third one was interestingly looking at the infrastructure. And we built something called as a workbench, which was actually, an experimentation zone that we built for the entire organization. It was a nicely curated sandbox environment, which was custom made. All the data sources were attached to it. You could use all the libraries, and you had all the compute in there, and that was opened up to the entire community. So that's where we were going enterprise level. And we did a lot on the organization piece. I think the critical mass was in place because of the group that we were in, but then we built these communities of practice across the organization. And with the whole demand coming in, there was a lot of ramp up that we did, a lot of inorganic growth, a lot of hiring that we did, with a little bit of reskilling as well. And finally, I think we were also leveraging the ecosystem, talking, be it whatever, I think when it comes to software or AI, the CoE is global in nature, but it is heavily centered in India. So we were leveraging IIT Delhi. In fact, IIT Chennai was one of them, IISc, and all the other institutes, seeing what innovation is happening. So that's how we were building and scaling. And then I thought the most important part was selling your success stories. So now that we started doing all this, we started talking about the work that is happening in the community of practices. We had these hackathons where we were spinning the environments. We had road shows, and all the work that our service arm was really doing, and solving those high value problems. We were taking it to the regions in local languages and talking about how it is making an impact. And that's how the entire organization was getting to know the value the CoE is bringing in. And once it was all recognized, it was just a matter of governance, I would say, because the floodgates opened, everybody started pouring in requests. So we had to, monitor the intake of things, govern, ensure that, we build in ethical stuff within the algorithms so that they are not biased, and also have definite KPIs. So that's, I would
Awesome.
say, those 5 elements that helped us in our journey.
Thank you so much for those 5 pillars of success. Looks like we have a ready reckoner playbook. You have summarized it so well. What I loved about it is AI could be a magic wand breaking down the walls between silos, because traditionally, mid to large corporations, we do have walls, and this would be an opportunity for the collective us to break down those walls. So thank you so much, Anshuma. I will have to catch up a little bit of time, and we will switch over to Vinay, and I would love to get your insights on the adoption. AI is so broad and comprehensive. As a leader, how does one look at curating new capabilities, solutions, offerings in CoE? And Pankaj also talked about the low-hanging fruits. There need not be AI, or there can be AI, but what's your perspective in attacking the low-hanging fruits first and then scaling up the value ladder?
So let me give you an example of how we went about doing this at our center. I think that's same pattern I have seen across multiple groups. Basically, there are 3 phases you go through. The first phase is basically you have a business case. There is a need for you to set up a team that focuses on a certain specific business problem. That's how we started off way back in 2000. We were looking for solving specific problems associated with the gas turbine group, and then we set up a team here in India. The first phase is learning from others, you're trying to contribute. About 2 to 3 years later, we started saying we need to do stuff independently. For everything, we cannot go back to our headquarters. So we started looking to scale the kind of resources we needed. We needed domain knowledge. We needed people who understood AI, but also we needed people who understood turbines. So we started looking for domain knowledge based people. In the AI itself, we had 2 kinds of people we were looking for: people who knew AI but were wanting to learn domain, which is turbines and wind turbines and so on. And then people who are engineers who knew their domain very well and had background in estimation theory and things like that. So the second phase was to become independent. And to become independent, we needed to have the right skill sets. The third phase was very much similar to previous example, was solving something that nobody else has solved. So in 2007, we got to work on a very tough problem related again to gas turbines. We were sampling 50 million samples per second per turbine, and we had 1,000 such turbines, and we needed to solve this problem. People around the globe had tried for a year, couldn't solve it. So we actually took that up. Within 6 months, we were actually out there piloting this solution. That turned everybody's mindset around, that this kind of work can be done, this kind of work can be done here out of India. Since then, every other businesses who are there in India saw the same thing, saying, hey, we see this kind of capability. Why don't we start setting up our own team? So over the past few years, we have grown from being 10, 20 people now to 400, 500 people. So basically, the 3 phases have to be business problem driven, a competency and a problem and a competency. Second phase is people and skill set availability. And then the third phase is leadership, adjacency, and innovation. You grow into the adjacent areas that you have a business need for.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Vinay. And again, awesome summary for somebody to take notes on and put a cheat sheet and refer back to. So Sudhir, let's go over to you. And I want to turn tables now. I want to ask you a very, very simple question. As all of us are consumers of these services, but if you are consuming services from banks, telecom, hospitality, retail, pharma, services, what have you, do you increasingly feel that a big brother is watching you? So how does one think about the ethics and the bias and the privacy, the governance? What's your take on it? And I don't think any panel discussion is complete without touching on these. And Sudhir, over to you.
Thank you, Naveen, for the question, and thanks to everyone who tuned around, tuning into the summit. To me, ethics and law are very different. Ethics is ethics and morals are very personal. So my views on this are personal as well. I just want to preface that before I get in. For some of you who might have seen the Netflix documentary, The Social Dilemma, you probably would have seen the direction or the dystopian world we might be going into if we get into our own echo chambers. Feeding back on your behavior and then magnifying everything that we do. Like that applies to news, that applies to any social media networks, and probably even applies to e-commerce, right? E-commerce maybe not as life-changing. It's probably at the end of the day, it's not changing your mindset. But just wanted, from my personal viewpoint, I think the echo chambers are something that we need to be very cognizant of. AI being creating those and insulating ourselves from and not being open to other point of views. Now coming to how I think that's more on the personal side of things. Now applying it to corporate environment. At Myntra in the e-commerce space, I think ethics comes down to fairness. Are you being fair to your customer? Are you being fair to your vendors and the sellers who are operating on your platform as a marketplace? It's essentially detecting and eliminating bias, whether it is in your algorithms, whether in your data collection practices, whatnot. So one of the things that I could think of is tagging abusers of the platform, for example. That could be, if you're using that seed data to be able to screen somebody based on, say, gender, ethnicity, urban versus rural, geography, etc., then that will be a self-fulfilling prophecy. So you need to kind of catch yourself not going into those pitfalls. From a corporate viewpoint, I think the ethics, from a governance standpoint, you'll probably, because one person's morals might not be the same for others, you need to have a very diverse group of folks who can come together and to get a well-rounded viewpoint, and that could be your ethics committee, and that would be shaping how your AI algorithms are performing. Doing an audit of how you are representing yourselves to the consumers. At Myntra, we primarily use AI algorithms that are explore and exploit approach. These explore and exploit algorithms have a self-controlling mechanism to eliminate bias. We seed in random recommendations in a very controlled manner. So we are not recommending the same thing over and over again. So we catch ourselves. And where data is not present, that doesn't mean that, just because data is not present on our platform doesn't mean there's no data at all. So seeding with the right set of data sets is important to be able to catch and to ensure fairness along the way.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Sudhir. Let's go on to the rapid fire. 20 seconds, everybody. What's one trait that you think is very much essential for a data scientist for 1,000+ viewers here? That the advice that you have gotten from a mentor, in 1 or 2 words, please explain very crisply. Let's start from Sudhir.
I would say be outcome driven. I think that's something I would say not only for AI. You could go into the scientific knowledge seeking route, but be outcome focused, what you want to accomplish, and calibrate your outcomes and go along the way, rather than experimenting forever in analysis paralysis.
A practical man. Thank you. Vinay, what about you?
I would say technical depth. Be really good in the data science and the AI space that you're supposed to know.
Fantastic. Anshuma?
Now that you have the technical depth, I would say, be the curiously agile communicator, curious to know why things are happening, agile to adjust to the customer needs, and communicate, finally to the stakeholders about all the successes that you're doing.
Awesome. Jayati, over to you.
Yeah, well, Anshuma sort of stole my thunder. So I was also sort of talking about curiosity. I think curiosity as AI or data scientist is important because every time you understand the business as well as the domain, right? The essential question becomes, can I solve it in a different way? Should I slice the data in a little different way? What am I not asking the business? So curiosity from the point of view of bettering the solution is something that I think is absolutely essential for any field, including AI and all the data scientists out here.
Fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, that rounds up a perfect AI CoE for all of you. And Riaz, over to you.
Thank you so much, Naveen. Thank you to all our panelists. Fantastic having you all here. I wish you well. Please enjoy the rest of the evening, and I'll see you back again in our next congregation. So that, ladies and gentlemen, brings us to this close of this lovely fire-packed panel discussion that we just had. And we're, of course, proud to have all of them here. But I'm going to request the console for us to be moved to the next session. While you, our audience, please stay put right here. We'll be back in 15 seconds.